So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And you know what? I'm actually really happy that we're doing a match preview again, because it seems like it's been bloody forever since we've done one. And yeah, look, as I say, we did a podcast last night in the transfer window, and everybody knows I love a good transfer rumor and I love getting my teeth stuck into that. But I think I'm about ready to step away from it for a few weeks or months anyway, at least, and concentrate on who we have and what we have coming up. And that very much so is Leicester at the weekend, Paddy, when we welcome them to Villa Park. Very much kind of a Leicester team that have, you know, they've questions to answer this year, and I for one hope that they don't have the answers to anything on Saturday come 3 p.m.
No, well, we're all thinking that, unless there's any foxes lurking around the comments there. I think we're all hoping that we'll push on and get the 3 points again on Saturday. Unfortunately, we've as Villa do, we've landed when they start to hit a bit of form. They're pushing their way out of the danger zone. They've got potentially Maddison backfiring on all cylinders. They have a couple of injuries, mind you, but we just have to look after ourselves. And I think if we look after ourselves, we should pick up the 3 points.
You mentioned there that they're hitting a run of form, or a bit of a run of form. They've conceded the second most amount of goals since the restart after the World Cup. And I think that's going to be pivotal in this, that, you know, Brendan Rodgers couldn't get a handle on them conceding goals. I know it was specifically from corners last season, but he couldn't get a handle on them conceding goals last season. And I think Aston Villa are going to need to score early, because and look, here's famous last words, and you can all blame me when we go 1-0 down after 7 minutes, but I've got this kind of feeling under Unai Emery that we can go and win games 2-1 and 1-0. And not need to score a lot of goals. What do you make of that, Paddy? Do you like this Leicester team? As I say, they're a bit disjointed at times.
Yeah, and a bit like ourselves at the start of the season. When they go ahead, they're struggling to keep leads. That's what's happened. We've been a bit better, obviously, in the last how many games. I never checked it after we discussed it last night. How many games Unai Emery's there? But yeah. It's
9 including cup games, I think it is.
So seven league games. Would that be correct?
I think so, yeah.
So he's six wins and a draw. Is that correct?
Or
6 wins, 5 wins, 1 loss and a draw.
Yeah.
No, we didn't lose any in the league, did we?
We lost to Liverpool.
Oh, we lost to Liverpool. Sorry, Jesus.
Yeah.
Tried to block that out of my mind. Yeah. Look, it was very disappointing that the first game was cancelled due to the death of the Queen. Obviously, all games were cancelled, but it was just so unfortunate because, well, fortunate, unfortunate, whatever you want to call it, because it was another game that Steven Gerrard didn't win, and we're in a better position now. But from a point of view, I've no doubt that the bad position that Leicester were in, we'd have gone and probably taken 3 points off them, but that game was cancelled. So it's our first game against them this year. I was at Leicester away last year. It was a boring 0-0 draw. Del Boy is just giving me a laugh there in the comments. He said, remember Filbert Street, Paddy? I don't really want to remember what year it was, but I think the fact it was Filbert Street gives it away a bit. Simon Grayson was playing for Leicester actually at the time, and I don't know if anyone was ever in Filbert Street. The away end, you're literally going through someone's living room to get into it. And that's not far off the mark. You literally went through someone's garage nearly to get into the away end. There's a row of houses, and then you've got the little stand in behind it, and then the big monstrosity of a stand on the other side of the pitch, which dwarfed everything. But it was a mad place to watch football, and myself and Del Boy went. We did a 3-game tour. Well, the third game was an accident, but we saw Villa and Liverpool
How does it give an accident?
Well, we decided to go to London, and we ended up in Crystal Palace versus Bolton Wanderers.
Okay.
But we went to Villa and Liverpool, and we went to Leicester away, and then went down to London and went to Palace and Bolton Wanderers. So it was a bit of a mad week or two, which done a bit of harm to the liver. So we made our way around the Midlands and then headed back down to London. So that just reminded me of good times and good crack.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, and like, yeah, like there's a quintessential kind of how am I going to put it? I follow a account on Twitter, and it's like I think it's something like the good old days of football, and you see the old Dell, you see the old Filbert Street, and the baseball ground, and that Derby County had and stuff. And look, I was only young. I was like 10, 11, 12, 13 when teams were still playing at those grounds. But I've vivid memories of sticker books, of the Premier League sticker books, and and seeing those grounds within the sticker books. And it's mad. I associate Dean Sturridge with every single one of those grounds, and I've got absolutely no idea why I do. But anyway, yeah, that's off the beaten track. But yes, obviously Filbert Street, the old home of Leicester. Martin O'Neill started off as Leicester manager when they were still there, and then they obviously moved to the Walker Stadium, which is now the King Power, and so on. The rest is history from there.
We have somebody in the comments as well that knows an awful lot about Leicester because he does a Leicester
Harry.
podcast.
Yes.
And he was at I think it was actually a stag party. I met him at the game last year, the 0-0 game. He'll confirm. I think it was a stag party or one of his stag parties that he came down from Scotland for. So look, it's a big game because we've got obviously Man City and Arsenal, and anything is possible in the week or so, 2 weeks afterwards. So it's important we get the 3 points and keep the momentum going.
I think so too. You mentioned there that Leicester are hitting a bit of form. I think, like, I thought the exact same, but I'm just after opening up a website here, and it's telling me that Leicester have failed to win their last 5 Premier League matches, losing 4 and only drawing 1 against Brighton when they were actually up, and Brighton came back to snatch a point from that game, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But that, like, as we know with Aston Villa, previous history or previous 5 games, like, that's probably the least favorable time for us to play any team. But I think the converse of that is, I think under Unai Emery, we've shown to have a small bit more mental resolve. In 6 of our last 7 home games, I'm also seeing here, we've scored, or that there has been over 2.5 goals in those games. And obviously we know of our last 7 matches that we've played in the Premier League, Unai Emery has got a song from the team. So I think every Aston Villa fan should be going there expectant at the weekend more so than hopeful. You know, I often have that phrase, I'm hopeful for this game more so than expectant. I think that we should be able to flip that around, even with the lack of incomings, and if there, if people are frustrated with regards to that, I still think we can have a coherent game plan, and we can win this game at the weekend. Leicester are missing a few players, Paddy. Actually, before we go into that, Matt Hanlon, thank you so much. Once again, your generosity blows my mind. Thank you so much for that. And also, cheers, to Glenn Dunser. Apologies if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Your first time coming and joining us. You're looking for a place to land. You're always welcome here. And if you've got 10 other friends that would like to join us as well, Glenn, bring them along. We'd love to have them here. We're going to come back to some of your comments in a moment, but we'll just go down through the injuries. And Leicester, if you're a fullback, if you play in the fullback position, and you never want to join Leicester because they can't seem to keep them fit. James Justin, Ricardo Pereira, Ryan Bertrand, all out. Sumare, who's been playing really well for them, was keeping Ndidi out of the team early on at the start of the season. He's also out. Johnny Evans, the wily old fox, he's out. Looks like Ndidi won't make it. They have Iosi Perez here down as doubtful. I'd imagine he's very doubtful considering he's now playing with Betis. Yes, considering he's playing with the Real Betis. And obviously, Jamie Vardy, the Tom Brady of, not Tom Brady's probably a bit overstretching for Jamie Vardy, but the old man of the team, He is doubtful as well. It doesn't look like he's going to play. But as you said, Maddison and Dewsbury Hall are back for them, and they really run that engine room for them.
Absolutely. Maddison is just one of those players you just love to have in your team. For me, I know he hates Villa because he's a Coventry boy and we did him a dirty when he was a kid, I suppose. But he absolutely despises Villa. I know that for a fact. So, yeah, I love to see him being beaten, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens at the weekend. There's a couple of weak links, especially, I think, in the goalkeeper department. I think that's where we can get at them. But who troubles the goalkeeper in our team? We'll have to wait and see what's the opportunities on Saturday. But look, I think if we go and put them under a high press, I think that's how we rattle this goalkeeper early on.
Yeah, one of the things for me as well. How do we kind of rattle that goalkeeper? Well, I think somebody who's going to be very pivotal to that, and he showed it against Spurs, due to his propensity to shoot to be one of our few midfielders who can get a shot on target, is Douglas Luiz. And we saw Douglas Luiz had this, like, I'm coming back to it, Paddy. Anybody who's watched this podcast for a long time, there is no need for the application Instagram. It's not needed. Nobody needs to have it. Absolutely nobody needs to have the application Instagram. Why put up that fucking stupid post on Instagram of sitting on top of your £500,000 Lamborghini saying you feel sick and it's January weather? Get inside, get under the bed covers and fucking take a lem sip and be ready for the weekend.
Big burning question here, Neil, is if you hate Instagram that badly, what the fuck are you doing looking at it?
I didn't. Noel Connaughton sent it into our group.
But you're always on it. You're always on it.
You just sent it into the group. I'm telling you, like, what is the malfunction with footballers that they need to put everything up on Instagram? Like, what's the malfunction? I never understand it. I will never understand it. If I had £1 billion like they do, the last thing I would be doing is sitting on top of my car with a woolly hat on, waiting for somebody to take a photo of me feeling sorry for myself because I've got a high temperature.
Maybe that made him feel a little bit better.
Fair play, yeah. Watch it yourself. The likes rolled in, Paddy. The likes rolled in. I'm
say
sure.
It before and I say it again. I couldn't give a shiny shite what he does from one end of the week to the other, as long as he turns up on a Saturday and plays well, which he has done. So for me, he has a pass.
Absolutely.
Here, if you were looking at Instagram today, you would have seen Ollie Watkins lying in the cot with his baby.
I saw that on Twitter. I shared that into our group as well on Twitter. Yeah, and that was his wife or his missus that had that up on Twitter and on Instagram, and I certainly am not following her. So
I think that's worse than sitting on top of your car.
Well, because she took the photo of him and put it up on her account. He staged the photograph of sitting on his. And this isn't me bashing Dougie. This is me having an existential crisis about the need for social media presence like this. I completely get social media for branding purposes and so on, but I never get the whole cryptic message on social media. Just does my head in. And I know that's part of branding as well, but.
He said he was off work. He was sitting on his car.
But he said of work as well.
What's a 27-year-old man doing lying in a cot? I can only guess that he just missed the bed and landed in the cot.
Well, his child was probably up all night. You know, I think we'd all do that from a fatherly point of view.
Well, Ollie Watkins, if you're listening, it's Thursday night. I hope you're asleep, and I hope you're asleep this time tomorrow too. So you can do that early in the week stuff, but when it gets to the business end of the week, you need your night's sleep. So off to a hotel for you for the next 2 nights.
100%.
We've got no fucking strikers to put you under pressure, so you better be firing on Saturday.
That's it, exactly. And the reason I wouldn't have brought that up is family men are always good in my book. That's what I would say from that point of view. But anyway, no, I'm not having a go at Ollie, or I'm not having a go at Douglas Luiz in that. As I said, this is just
we're only having a joke.
We're only having a joke. The renewed RS. There's an see. this dates back to the end of last season where there was hashtag Team Paddy with Danny Ings and there was hashtag Team Neil with Ollie Watkins, and hashtag Team Paddy won out vastly in the Twitter wars for Danny Ings. So people were putting in hashtag Team Paddy every time Ings did something good, and nobody put in a hashtag Neil ever when Ollie Watkins did any good. So I can only imagine that Paddy has bought a bot farm in Skopje in Macedonia or something like that, and that's what was pushing up the numbers. But that's where this comes from. That's where a lot of the banter around that comes from. So yeah. So he just said I have an ongoing kind of long running meltdown, not meltdown, but kind of Victor Meldrew for anybody who's based out of the UK. I turn into Victor Meldrew about cryptic posts on social media because they do my head in. So anyway, yeah, that's where we go. Anyway, back to matters less less trivial than those. But going back to Douglas Luiz, I think he's going to be pivotal at the weekend because we see the way that he's been allowed to kind of link the play. He did it against Leeds to good effect. He did it against Spurs to very good effect. And he's had a pop from far out. He caught Hugo Lloris, essentially caught Hugo Lloris for the first goal. Ball rebounds back off Lloris. Ollie Watkins comes in, lays it back, and who was it? Was it Buendia? Buendia scored. And then obviously Douglas Luiz scores the second goal then, I think it was against Spurs. So I think he's going to be pivotal. All jokes aside about sitting on your car, I do hope he feels an awful lot better because I think he's been a real shining star for us since Unai Emery has come into the team, and he is definitely somebody that we can continue to build for the rest of the season around. I think another very, very pivotal player is that we're going to see, or maybe I presume it is going to be Ashley Young that's going to be playing at right back. I think whoever's going to be there at right back at the weekend is going to have to be on their A game because Harvey Barnes he's been a bit down on form this season. Last season he was kind of teetering, but like he has these great games in him and he's an intelligent player and he plays the game very well. And if we start to open up a small bit, he can catch you in behind like we were caught against Liverpool. So and I've full confidence in Ashley Young to be able to marshal him at the weekend, but I still think he's going to be very pivotal and it's going to be an area. I think whenever we play any team, they're going to try and target Ashley Young. He's been massively up to the task so far. So my audio is probably buzzy because I've been told my audio is very low, so I'm talking very close to the microphone. So I apologize if that is the case. We can't seem to get the audio correct for the audio podcasts. So I'll retreat from the podcast a small bit, or from the microphone a small bit, and see if it makes it any better. But yeah, what do you think about that, Paddy? Do you think that there are going to be massive threats down the wings for us again, or actually, I suppose really? Yeah, like is it anything that we really need to worry about anymore? Or are we kind of past that now that Unai Emery has gotten a bit more shape in there and our fullbacks don't bomb forward as much as they did do under Gerrard?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I like I mentioned Maddison. Maddison is my biggest worry in this team. If we can nullify him, I think we can stop them very easily. They don't have the firepower that they used to have. Harvey Barnes, obviously, very good player. Can turn the best of them inside out if he's on form. He hasn't been on form. With regard to the concern over Douglas Luiz, if he's out, then we have a problem because it disrupts that midfield, which has been operating very well as it was, and we may have to see Dendoncker in there because it's unlikely even if he was fit, he probably wouldn't play McGinn in there. I'm sure he'd play Dendoncker because that would suit the system a bit better, I think. But I don't think McGinn will come straight back in just yet. I think he's probably due another week or two on the grass before we see him take a full part in the game. You might see him on the bench. I wouldn't think so. Bear in mind that he's only just back playing, so that might take a couple of weeks. But it's an important duel. Those two sitting in front of the back four. If they get Marshall and Maddison, I think it nullifies them from the start.
Yeah. Who was it there? I think it was Barry put in something there. Barry Robertson put in there again. And Marty at centre half again. Like we're gonna be relying on our pace up top. and the effort of Watkins and to a lesser extent, but also not to be outdone. Bailey, I think Bailey gets around the field a good bit, but he just doesn't do smart chasing or smart closing down like Ollie Watkins does. Um, so, but the effort is still there to a smaller extent. But I think the interchange between Watkins and Bailey, like this guy Faze, he's pretty decent centre half, but he's learning the ropes in the Premier League, and I think that we can get in around the two of them, around the Martin Faze, and try and get the ball around them. But one area of concern, I suppose, for Leicester, and obviously for us as well, is it's probably going to be Iheanacho up front. He just scores against us. Like, that's what he does. He's one of these players who just, like, for Man City, he used to like scoring against us, and for Leicester, he scored a few against us as well. Hopefully we can put that kind of hex to bed, Paddy. What do you think?
Well, I think he was a better player at Man City, probably because of the players he had around him. So I don't have that fear. Obviously, anyone getting the right ball can score goals, and he's well capable of doing it. He hasn't done it for me consistently at Leicester. So I'm not really too worried about that. I'm glad that Vardy's out. Vardy's had a field day against us all throughout the years. The other player they signed, his name escapes me, also out injured. The guy they signed transfer deadline day.
The centre half?
Yeah, the big
Suter,
fella.
yeah, Harry
Suter,
Suter, from Stoke. Yeah. He's touch and go. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be ready. I also have. I'm not going to say that I've got massive concerns, but I think he's going to have an acclimatization to the Premier League. Even judging on his World Cup performances, you can see that some things are good and some things need work. So he might be one of these players that comes in, looks good in the first one or two games, and as there's more video on him, there's more film on him, playing against Premier League opposition, I think that he might have an acclimatization. There might be a regression to the mean in that area there. But they would probably the guy that they signed, Christensen, at left back, he's a very decent player, and they're probably going to pair him up at times. If Barnes isn't doing the business or whatever, they're going to bring Tete off the bench, and he's a player I really like. I would have liked, if Villa were looking to sign a player on deadline day, I think Tete would have fitted Aston Villa absolutely really well. He does dog's work in defence, and he gets the ball forward as well. The guy that he cut short his loan at Lyon. Originally from Shakhtar Donetsk, and he's gone to Leicester for the rest of the season. So an interesting player, and I hope we don't see too much of him at the weekend, because I think that he could. I think he's made for the Premier League in some aspects, but you really never know what you're going to get. Somebody coming from the Ukrainian league and coming directly into Premier League football at a few days' notice and a few days' training.
Mm. Yeah, I think one way especially with him, I think he's 6'6" or 6'8". That
Harry Suter, yeah,
he's a big unit, and it's somewhere that they're lacking at the back is a bit of height, and they're lacking that aerial presence of Schmeichel as well. So it's a completely different side to the side that we would have played even in that 0-0 draw at their place last year. What do they call it now? King Power Stadium.
King Power.
Yeah, so look, everything points towards a Villa win. I'm expecting a Villa win.
Me too.
I think we're settled enough to really trouble them. Probably a lot more settled than they are, and I think that will be the telling point at the end of the day. It's not going to be a 4-5-0 game. It's a 2-0, 2-1. They're well able to score. They probably will nick one. But we'll reserve our predictions until we see the team sheet tantrum on Saturday.
Well, you always do that. I always get out over my skis in these pre-match ones, and I've already predicted a 1-0 Aston Villa. And the reason that I wanted to say that is because, we often talk about, signature performances, 3-0s, 3-1s, 4-1s, those kind of things. I just don't think Unai is going to set us up to do that. I don't think he's going to want us to put to smash teams like that. Obviously, we'll take them if the opportunities arise, but I think that we will be resolute if we score 2 goals, we will always, if we score 1 goal, we'll always have a chance of a draw. If we score 2 goals, we'll always have more of a chance of a win. And I think he's going to be pragmatic and set us up that way.
Yeah. And I think that's the way it's always going to be with him.
Yeah.
I don't think he goes out to really press home and win 4 or 5-0. I don't think we're ever going to see those performances. As a result, there's no opportunity to bring someone like a Duran in and see what he's made of, because I'd like to see a game where we go a couple of goals up and him to come in and just let him do his stuff and see how he gets on. But
I think we see him off the bench.
The way we're set up, it's probably not like the for like from what we've seen of the clips and whatever. He's probably more a Watkins type player than he is a Bailey type player, because he's big and he holds up the ball as well as scores goals. So he does a similar job to Watkins. Whether the two of them can fit together, I don't know. But as I'm saying, I'm sure Emery has seen enough of him in training to know whether he's up for well, I'm sure he'd be on the bench. I've no doubt about that.
I think we see him for 10 minutes at the end. I don't think, like, I could very easily see, like, Bailey doesn't usually last 90 minutes. Now, I'm sure I could open up FB Ref and it'd tell me completely different, but it just in the back of my mind, off the top of my head here, having a striker to come on for 10 minutes at the end or 15 minutes at the end, I see no reason why we wouldn't play Duran and see what he can do. Specifically, if they do, let's just say they do start Harry Suter, why not bring him on for the last 10, 15 minutes and get him up there and get him into the rough and tumble with a big man up there as well, and see what he's made of, Also, I'm going to be running a competition that if Jean Duran does score at the weekend, we will give away a Jean Duran jersey to some lucky winner. So I know that it's unlikely, but we will be doing kind of little kind of prop bets like that. If X thing happens, we will give away that jersey for X player.
That might be a dangerous competition, because a little birdie told me today that they've had a penalty shootout competition all week and he's won them all.
I've heard
every one of them. Yeah, so
I think so too.
That could be wrong, but I was told that he won every one of them this week. So there you go. Make it up what you will.
And as I say, if he does score, I'll be putting up the tweet, and I'll be putting up a YouTube short as well later on. So I'll be doing it later on this evening. If John Duran scores, you'll have to get on the tweet though. If you retweet, you have to like and retweet the tweet out there, and we'll give away a John Duran jersey if he does the business at the weekend. Lads, that's going to do it for us tonight. We could stay here rambling. I could talk for ages about social media posts as well, but look, we just don't have that time in our lives anymore. I have to go in and sleep in a cot tonight with my little one, because she's going to be she's teething at the moment. So I hope that there's nobody taking photographs of the baby monitor while I'm doing that. But
do what everybody else does and just lies on the floor beside the cot.
I use that's my thing. Lie on the floor and stick, as long as I stick my hand in through the bars.
Or bring the baby into the bed.
No, I'm not doing that, because that's bad habits. I prefer to sleep on the floor than to bring the baby into the bed. But anyway, listen, thanks very much, everybody, for jumping on. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for everything you do for the podcast. If there's anybody out there you think would like to listen to us and our ramblings, please let them know about the podcast. Word of mouth is the best seller of anything that we can find. We're nearly at 5,000 YouTube subscriptions at the moment. Please sit to your head in the screen. Is it me? No, I think he's talking about me centering my head on the screen. Maybe as I love Paddy, but maybe it's you. I don't know.
Anyway, I spend my time trying to stay between those two picture frames behind me.
Between the two picture frames. But yeah, we're nearly at 5k subs on YouTube. If anybody here isn't subscribed, if you watch and maybe you tune in all the time and you aren't subscribed, just hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just a vanity project for us really to get to 5k. I like round numbers. I like round numbers is basically what I'm getting at there. But thanks so much, everybody, for watching, for listening. We'll be back with a Team Sheet Tantrum on Saturday at 1:50. And we'll be back with a post-match directly after the game at 4:55. And hopefully we'll be cheering after that game. So hopefully you'll join us for those as well. So in the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.